This is a calm, slow-paced, boring history story for sleep. Tonight, we travel back to London in the 1740s. You think a glossy period drama showed you the truth? Think again. Tonight, we're stepping into the real Georgian city, where the Thames is still used like a sewer. Gin can cost less than breakfast, and the morning walk to work may involve dodging the contents of chamber pots tipped from upstairs windows. No one is gliding into perfect balls in spotless gowns. Most people are busy doing something far more practical. Trying not to get sick, trying not to starve, and trying, very simply, to make it to tomorrow. So dim the lights, settle in, and let's take a slow, honest walk into a London that's rougher, stranger, and oddly more gripping than any costume drama. Let me introduce you to Thomas Black, a 19-year-old apprentice to a leather worker, about to live through what, in London in 1743, counts as an ordinary weekday. Thomas isn't special, and that's exactly why he matters. He isn't a gentleman in Parliament. He isn't a merchant counting profits at the Royal Exchange. And he definitely isn't one of those fictional characters who somehow looks immaculate while living in pre-industrial poverty. Thomas is just a young man from Yorkshire who came to London 2 years ago to learn a trade. If luck is kind, he'll also avoid dying of fever before he turns 25. Every morning begins the same way, not with birdsong, not with the soft glow of sunrise through a clean window, but with smell, a full-on assault of smell. Thomas sleeps in a cramped room above his master's workshop on Fleet Street. Fleet Street runs alongside the River Fleet, though calling it a river in the 1740s is generous to the point of comedy. By this time, it's closer to an open channel for everything the city would rather not think about. Thomas's room is roughly the size of a large closet, and he doesn't have it to himself. He shares it with 2 other apprentices, William and John, both around his age. All 3 sleep on straw-stuffed mattresses laid directly on wooden boards. No privacy. No personal space. Just 3 young bodies trying to rest in a room that never quite stops being cold. The one small window stays shut most of the time, because opening it means inviting in Fleet Street itself. Horses, refuse, damp stone, smoke, sour human breath, and the steady background note of waste that clings to the city. When Thomas wakes around 5 in the morning, it's still dark. It's January, which means the sun is in no hurry. Inside, the cold is sharp enough that his breath shows. Early modern English buildings aren't designed for comfort, and the room above a leather shop is designed for comfort least of all. Thomas sleeps under a thin wool blanket that has seen better decades, and he sleeps in the same shirt he wore yesterday. Sleep clothes are a luxury. Most working people simply wear the same linen day after day, removing only shoes at night. The room smells like leather, sweat, stale bread, and something faintly organic rising from the straw mattresses. Mattresses used for months, sometimes years, absorbing every trace of human life. Thomas lies still for a moment, considering the idea of not moving at all. But his master, Edward Harding, runs a strict shop. Apprentices who aren't downstairs ready to work by 5:30 will be introduced to Edward's very creative vocabulary. So Thomas forces himself up. And now we have to talk about hygiene, more specifically about how different it is from anything we'd call normal. Thomas hasn't taken what you would think of as a proper bath in about 6 months. Not because he enjoys filth, not because he's lazy, but because bathing, especially for working people in 1740s London, is not a regular habit. Part of this is practical. Heating enough water for a bath means boiling pot after pot over a fire, and most poor households don't have a tub anyway. Public bathhouses exist, but they have a reputation, more associated with disease and vice than with cleanliness. The other reason is medical belief. Many people in the 18th century still hold tightly to the theory of miasma, the idea that sickness comes from bad air rising from rot, waste, and decay. They aren't completely wrong that filthy conditions are dangerous, but they misunderstand the mechanism. They think the smell itself is the threat, and water, especially cold water, seems suspicious. Many believe that bathing opens the pores and allows dangerous miasmas to enter the body. A warm bath might be tolerated sometimes, but regular washing? Many would consider it risky. So most people practice what's often called dry cleaning. They change linen when they can. They wipe faces and hands with a damp cloth. The wealthy can change shirts daily because they own a stack of clean linen and have servants to launder it. Thomas owns only a few shirts, and laundering is infrequent. He wears one until it's stiff, itchy, and unpleasant enough that even he can't ignore it. This morning, he's on day 5 in the same rough linen shirt. It's yellowed with age, darkened at the seams, and it carries what we might politely call an aggressively human scent. Thomas doesn't notice. Nobody does. In a world where everyone smells like this, the nose learns to treat it as background, like we treat the smell of coffee in a modern kitchen. In the corner sits a small table with a ceramic basin and the pitcher for washing. The pitcher is empty. That means Thomas has to go outside for water, down to the public water pump at the corner, in the dark, in January cold. And yes, there is also a chamber pot under the bed. Indoor plumbing is a dream of the future. If you need to relieve yourself at night, you use a pot. In a room with 3 apprentices, there's often one pot shared. By morning, it's full, and the smell becomes part of the room, like the cold. Emptying it is one of the first chores of the day. If you're conscientious, you carry it outside and dump it into a street channel. If you're in a hurry, or you simply don't care, you throw it from a window and shout a warning. This is why walking through London requires alertness. The city produces a staggering amount of waste. Human, animal, food scraps, dead rats, industrial runoff. Disposal often means, quite literally, put it in the street and hope it goes away. Some streets have open gutters running down the middle, meant to carry filth toward the Thames. In winter they can freeze, leaving slow, dirty ridges of ice in the road. Thomas pulls on leather breeches stiff with cold and grime, and a patched wool coat. His boots are leather too, made in the shop from scraps. Thin, not waterproof. Left and right boots aren't truly a thing yet. Shoes are made on straight lasts and shaped over time by the wearer's feet. He doesn't bother with stockings. The ones he owns are mostly holes. He runs his fingers through his hair in what we will generously call grooming. Brushes cost money. Combs cost money. And even if he had one, his hair is oily and tangled enough to threaten any delicate tool. And then there are the guests no one invited. Lice. In the 18th century city, head lice are common among rich and poor alike. But the crowded sleeping quarters of working apprentices make it worse. People try remedies, some dangerous, involving harsh chemicals. More often they live with it, scratch when necessary, and occasionally help each other pick through hair. William and John begin to stir, groaning at the cold. No one talks much. It's too early, too unpleasant. But there's a kind of quiet brotherhood in their shared misery. They serve the same master. They work the same long days. They all hope to survive their apprenticeship and, one day, perhaps become independent tradesmen. The apprenticeship system is supposed to provide training, shelter, and food. Technically, it does, though shelter and food can be interpreted very minimally. Edward Harding feeds his apprentices twice a day and gives them their cramped room above the workshop. In exchange, they work 6 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day, doing leather work and whatever other tasks Edward decides they should do. Thomas takes the empty pitcher and heads down. The workshop is dark and locked, but Thomas has a key to the back entrance. He slips out into a narrow alley behind the building, about a meter wide, walled in by the backs of other houses, and used as a dumping place for anything people don't want indoors. Rats scatter when Thomas's boots scrape the stones. London is full of rats. It's full of food for them. People notice them the way we notice pigeons, as part of the background of city life. At the public pump, even at this early hour, there is already a small crowd. Water is a daily concern in 1740s London. The Thames exists, of course, but inside the city it's been burdened with sewage, industrial waste, runoff from slaughterhouses. Private water companies and public pumps provide access, but often only at certain hours. Miss the free window and you may have to pay or go without. Most of the people waiting at the pump are women and children, because fetching water is traditionally their task. But Thomas and other apprentices have no women to do it for them. So here he is, shivering and waiting his turn. The pump is simple. A long wooden handle, worked up and down to pull water from below. The water comes out cold enough to sting the hands, and cloudy with sediment. That cloudiness matters because the water supply can be contaminated by nearby waste pits, drains, and burial grounds. People don't know about bacteria, but they do know that some water makes you ill. Boiling helps. Brewing helps. Beer and ale are often safer because the process uses heat. Thomas fills his pitcher anyway and hopes for the best. On his way back, it happens, one of the everyday hazards of London streets. A window above opens. A man shouts a warning, something like, "Gardez l'eau!" and a stream of chamber pot contents pours down toward the cobbles. Thomas presses himself flat to the wall just in time. The waste splashes into the street gutter and becomes part of the city. No one is shocked. No one is even particularly angry. It's simply London. Back upstairs, Thomas pours some of the murky water into the basin. William and John argue quietly over whose turn it is to deal with the chamber pot. Thomas ignores them and begins the morning ritual, splashing cold water on his face, rubbing away sleep and the worst grime. There is no soap. Soap exists, yes, but it's expensive, made from fats and lye, and usually reserved for laundry. A bar of soap could cost a working person the equivalent of multiple days' earnings. Besides, many believe soap is too harsh and could cause illness. So Thomas washes with water alone. He doesn't wash his hair. That would require far more water than he has. He doesn't wash his body beyond face and hands. The idea of a daily shower, or even a weekly bath, is so foreign to his life that if you explained it, he might think you were describing a strange obsession. He dries off with a stiff scrap of cloth that serves as a towel. William and John take their turns at the basin, using the same water, growing dirtier with each face and pair of hands. By the time all three have finished, the basin looks like it could support its own small ecosystem. And now we need to talk about someone important, because she's about to arrive. Thomas's mother, Mary Black, lives about 15 minutes away in Clerkenwell, a slightly less miserable district than Fleet Street. She's a widow. Thomas's father died 3 years ago of what was likely tuberculosis. A doctor might have called it consumption and offered little that would truly help. Mary supports herself and 2 younger children by taking sewing work and washing laundry for families better off than she is. She's 42, an age that, in a hard-working life, can look older than it sounds. This morning, she comes to the leather shop carrying a bundle of clothing she has repaired for Edward Harding's wife. It's part of the arrangement. Edward provides Thomas with food, shelter, and training. Mary repays some of that debt with labor. The working class survives through these networks of favors, obligations, and barter, thin ropes stretched over deep water. Mary opens the back door. She's been here enough times to be trusted with it, and climbs the stairs to check on her son. The first thing she does when she enters the apprentice's room is fling open the window despite the cold. The smell, apparently, is too much even by local standards. Cold air rushes in, carrying the sharp perfume of Fleet Street morning. Horses, refuse, damp stone, smoke, and the faint chemical bite from nearby workshops. Somehow, it counts as an improvement. Mary begins to fuss, straightening what cannot really be straightened, tidying what cannot truly be tidy. She has brought the 2 younger children with her, Anne, about 14, and Robert, 8. They look exactly like working-class children in winter. Thin clothes, tired faces, and the kind of grime that comes not from neglect, but from living in a world where cleanliness costs money and time. Mary's morning routine includes checking that her son and his fellow apprentices are still alive, not visibly sick, and not drifting too far into the filth that can bring real disease. She's brought a small handful of wood ash wrapped in cloth, because she's going to demonstrate one of the working world's substitutes for soap. Wood ash mixed with water makes a weak alkaline solution. Not true soap, but it cleans better than plain water, and it's essentially free if you have a hearth. Mary makes a thin paste and uses it to scrub the children's hands and faces. It isn't a bath, it isn't even close, but it is more washing than many people get on an ordinary day. The children accept it with the calm obedience of kids used to hard routines. Robert especially is dirty, because he's already been out running errands and hauling water. In working-class London, children don't have childhood in the modern sense. They work. From 5 or 6 years old, they carry water, fetch fuel, run messages, sweep, mind babies, do whatever keeps a household functioning. Robert's labor is economically necessary. Without it, the family either pays someone else, impossible, or goes without. Anne has even more responsibilities. She can sew, she can cook simple food, she can scrub laundry. She is expected to help her mother with nearly everything, and to take small paid tasks when opportunities arise. By 16, Anne will be treated as fully adult, ready for service work or marriage, and for the cycle to repeat. Downstairs, the Harding household begins to wake in earnest. Edward appears, broad-shouldered, near 50, hands permanently stained by leather and dye, and gives Mary a curt nod. Their relationship is built on usefulness, not affection. Then he starts his own routine, checking the fire, stepping out to the yard privy, and scanning the day's work. His wife, Catherine Harding, is already tending the hearth. Breakfast is bread and small ale, low-alcohol beer brewed for daily drinking, safer than water in many cases. 8 people crowd around a work table that doubles as a dining table. Edward, Catherine, 3 apprentices, Mary, and Mary's 2 children. They eat quickly. Food is fuel. Leisure at breakfast is a luxury. Conversation turns, because it often does, to who is ill, injured, or dead. It sounds grim, but in a world full of sickness and weak medicine, this is practical information. Catherine mentions a neighbor who has fever. Mary quietly remembers children she has buried. No one is shocked. In a city like this, death is not a rare visitor. It is part of the weather. And while Thomas watches his younger brother and sister eat, he doesn't need to think in words to understand one hard truth. Survival here is part effort, part luck. Heavy on the luck. When breakfast is finished, the day continues. Work awaits. And while Thomas returns to leather and long hours, Anne returns to her own work that is just as essential and far less valued. She is 21 now, married for 3 years to a man named William Cooper, a carpenter's assistant. She is 6 months pregnant with her second child, and she is caring for a 15-month-old daughter, Elizabeth, who is teething, and therefore, for most of the day, loudly unhappy with existence. Their home is 2 small rooms on the 2nd floor of a building on St. John Street. The rent is 3 shillings a week, about a quarter of William's earnings when he has steady work, which he doesn't always. Carpentry is seasonal, weather-dependent, and paid by clients who sometimes disappear. That's why Anne's sewing is not extra, it's survival. She sits by the window where afternoon light is strongest, because candles cost money, and because the eyes can only strain so much. She sews glove fingers, small pieces that will be assembled into finished gloves by someone else. It is piecework in its purest form. Anne is paid per completed finger section, perhaps a farthing each. To earn a shilling, she needs to complete enough pieces to make the arithmetic feel almost cruel. Her hands ache constantly. Sewing leather means pushing a needle through resistance again and again, hour after hour. After years of this, she has calluses, numb patches, and the deep fatigue of someone who cannot afford to stop. Elizabeth plays on the floor with a wooden spoon and a scrap of cloth. Perfect entertainment for about 3 minutes. Then she starts to cry again, because she is 15 months old and her gums hurt, and the whole world seems unfair. Anna sets down her needle and lifts her daughter. The crying stops immediately, only for Elizabeth to reach greedily for the leather, because at 15 months everything looks potentially chewable. Anna gently redirects her hands and offers a crust of bread left from breakfast. Elizabeth gums it with the devoted intensity of someone trying to extract comfort from a piece of wood. It works. Not perfectly, but enough. Anna balances the child on her hip and returns to sewing with one hand. Her stitches grow slightly less even. She worries the factor, the middleman who collects finished work, might reject the batch for quality. Rejection means no pay. No pay means less food. And the household budget does not care that she is pregnant, tired, swollen, and in pain. Pregnancy is supposed to bring rest. Poverty does not allow it. Anna keeps stitching because the alternative is worse. And while she sews, A low current of fear lives beneath her thoughts. Fear of childbirth, fear of sickness, fear of one bad week collapsing everything. She has given birth once already, and she remembers exactly what it cost. In London in the 1740s, childbirth is still one of the most dangerous things a woman will do. Midwives learn through experience and apprenticeship, not formal medical schooling. Their tools are practical: hands, cloths, perhaps a bit of ergot powder if labor stalls, and prayers that nothing goes wrong. Because if something goes wrong, there may be nothing anyone can do. Anna's first labor lasted 18 hours. There was no anesthesia, no pain relief beyond what a little alcohol could dull. She endured waves of pain that rose and fell and rose again, until finally, near dawn, Elizabeth arrived. Small but alive, and loudly determined to stay that way. The midwife cut the cord, rinsed the baby with water that everyone hoped was clean enough, and wrapped her in cloth. When the placenta came, the midwife inspected it carefully. Retained tissue could mean infection. Infection could mean death. This time, everything looked normal. The midwife was paid 2 shillings and 6 pence. Anne recovered slowly over weeks and emerged weaker than before. And she knew, because every woman knew, that many things could go wrong. Labor could stall. The baby could be positioned badly. Bleeding could begin and never stop. Fever could follow in the days after, the so-called childbed fever, spread by caregivers who did not understand the importance of clean hands. The risk of dying in childbirth might be only 1 or 2% per birth, but women often endured 6, 8, even more pregnancies. Over a lifetime, the odds added up. Almost every woman had known someone who died: a sister, a neighbor, a friend. Anne survived once. She understands very clearly that survival is not a promise. This pregnancy feels different. The baby moves more strongly. Her back hurts in ways it didn't before. It may mean nothing. It may mean danger. There is no way to know until the day comes. So she does what people in this city do. She focuses on the immediate task. She counts stitches. She counts pennies. She keeps going. And outside, London keeps going too. Because London in the 1740s does not pause for anyone. If you want, I'll continue with part 2 next. The gin craze, the street scene, then Tyburn, then Vauxhall Gardens, then the long walk home. Night comes slowly to London, not with silence and not with peace, but with a gradual dimming. Sounds soften, movements slow. The city exhales, though it never truly rests. Thomas leaves the workshop just after sunset. His hands ache from a full day of cutting leather. His fingers are stiff, the skin cracked and darkened from work. The smell of the shop, animal hide, oil, smoke, clings to him as stubbornly as the cold. Fleet Street looks different at this hour. During the day it is crowded and loud. At night it becomes something narrower, heavier. The buildings seem taller. The street feels tighter, as if it were closing in. Oil lamps hang from iron brackets at uneven intervals. Some are lit, some are not. Light pools beneath them, leaving long stretches of darkness in between. Thomas walks carefully. The cobblestones are slick with mud, waste, and whatever else the day has left behind. A wrong step can mean a twisted ankle, or worse. Injury is not an inconvenience here, it is a potential catastrophe. A man with an injury cannot work. A man who cannot work does not eat. He passes a tavern, its door open just enough to let warmth and noise spill into the street. Inside, men drink gin and small beer. Laughter bursts out, sharp and sudden, then disappears again as the door swings shut. The smell of alcohol mixes with smoke and sweat. Gin is everywhere now. In the 1740s, London is deep in what people will later call the gin craze. Cheap spirits flood the city. A penny buys forgetfulness. Another penny buys oblivion. For people whose lives are hard, repetitive, and uncertain, gin offers something rare: numbness. Thomas does not go inside. He cannot afford it, for one thing, but he has also seen what gin does. He has watched neighbors drink away their wages, their health, and sometimes their families. He keeps walking. A little farther down the street, he passes a woman sitting against a wall. She is an adult, wrapped in layers of worn clothing. Her face is pale. Her eyes are unfocused. The smell of gin is unmistakable. Beside her lies a bundle of cloth. Thomas slows. For a moment he wonders if it is laundry, or rags, or something else. He does not stop long enough to find out. In London, stopping can be dangerous. Curiosity can cost more than it gives. People learn quickly where to direct their attention and where not to. He continues on, feeling the familiar, quiet weight of guilt that comes from walking past suffering you cannot fix. This, too, is part of life here. Further west, the street grows livelier again. Music drifts through the air. Lanterns glow more brightly. The smells change, from mud and refuse to roasted meat and sweetened wine. Thomas has reached the edge of Vauxhall Gardens. For the price of admission, one can step into a different London, a cleaner one, a brighter one. Music, food, laughter, and the illusion that the world is not always cold and unfair. Thomas does not enter tonight. He stands for a moment at the edge, watching better dressed men and women pass through the gates. They look lighter somehow, as if the city weighs less on their shoulders. Then he turns away. Pleasure, like rest, is something you ration carefully when you are poor. The walk home is quieter. The farther Thomas goes from the main roads, the darker the streets become. A single watchman stands near an intersection, lantern in hand. He nods once, barely interested. The watchmen are not police in the modern sense. They are old men or tired men, paid little to do very little. Their presence is symbolic more than practical. Crime still happens. Violence still happens. The city is simply too large to control. At last, Thomas reaches the workshop. The back door is unlocked. Edward Harding believes locks are an unnecessary expense. Theft, he says, is inevitable. Better not to pretend otherwise. Upstairs, William and John are already asleep. Thomas undresses in the dark, careful not to wake them. He lies down on his straw mattress and pulls the thin blanket over himself. The room is cold. Somewhere below, a cart rattles over the stones. A dog barks. A voice shouts, then fades. Thomas closes his eyes. His thoughts drift, not to grand dreams, but to small ones. A workshop of his own someday. A room that smells less of damp. Food that is enough. Work that is still hard, but his. These thoughts are fragile. He does not hold them tightly. Hope, in a city like this, must be handled gently. Sleep comes slowly, and as Thomas drifts off, London continues around him. Children are born, people fall ill, coins change hands, gin is poured, bread is baked. Somewhere a woman sews by candlelight, balancing work and exhaustion and fear. The city does not care who survives and who does not. But the people do. They endure. They adapt. they wake up and do it again. And that, more than anything, is what life in 1740s London is really like. Not a story of heroes or villains, just a long, quiet effort to make it through another day. London grows quieter late at night. Not silent, never silent, but slower, as if the city, exhausted by its own weight, lowers its voice. Somewhere not far from Fleet Street, a small room is lit by a single candle. Anne sits by the window. She has placed the candle carefully, far enough from the fabric to avoid fire, close enough to see the stitches. The flame flickers gently each time a draught slips through the cracks in the wall. Her daughter sleeps at last. Elizabeth lies on a straw mattress wrapped in layers of cloth. Her breathing is uneven but steady. One small hand curls against her chest, as if holding on to the world even in sleep. Anne does not move much. She cannot afford to wake her. She balances the child's earlier exhaustion with practiced care, the way women here learn to do very quickly. One part of her attention is always listening, always ready. The other part works. Her needle passes slowly through leather, in, out, in again. The rhythm is repetitive, almost soothing. She is sewing glove fingers, small pieces, each one nearly identical to the last. Each finished piece earns her a fraction of a penny. Enough pieces together become a meal. Enough meals together become survival. This is women's work in London. Not delicate, not decorative, necessary. Anne's hands ache. They always ache. The skin is rough, the joints swollen. She has learned to ignore discomfort the way she ignores hunger until it becomes impossible to ignore. She is 6 months pregnant. The child inside her shifts now and then, a slow pressure, a reminder that time is moving whether she wants it to or not. Pregnancy does not slow work here. It simply adds another layer of effort. Anne pauses to rest her eyes. The candlelight blurs. She blinks slowly, then returns to the stitches. Outside, the street is quiet enough now that she can hear voices drifting from farther away. A tavern door opens. Laughter spills out. Someone sings badly. Someone else shushes them, or maybe encourages them. She cannot tell. Gin. It has become part of the city's nighttime soundscape. In the 1740s, gin is everywhere. Sold cheaply, sold freely, sold without much concern for who buys it or why. For many women, gin is not pleasure, it is relief. a way to soften hunger, a way to quiet exhaustion, a way to forget, for a little while, how narrow life has become. Anne knows women who drink. Some drink after their children are asleep. Some drink before. Some drink because their husbands drink. Some drink because they are alone. The city judges them harshly. A drinking woman is called careless, unnatural, a bad mother. But the city does not ask how long she has been working, or how many children she has buried, or how often she has been afraid. Anne does not drink, not tonight. She cannot afford the pennies, and she cannot afford the risk. Someone must stay steady. Someone must wake when the child cries. Someone must keep stitching. She knows that tomorrow will come whether she is rested or not. The candle burns lower. Across the city, in other rooms like this one, other women are awake. Some are sewing. Some are washing clothes in cold water that bites at their hands. Some are mending garments that will never truly be clean again. Some are caring for sick family members, listening for breathing to change. Their labor is invisible in most records, but without it, London would stop. The bread would not be baked, the clothes would not be worn, the children would not survive. Anne finishes another glove finger and places it carefully on the pile. She counts silently, not because she enjoys counting, but because numbers matter here. Numbers decide whether the family eats meat this week. Numbers decide whether there is coal for the fire. Outside, footsteps pass in the street. A woman's voice murmurs. A man answers, unsteady. Gin again. Anne does not look up. She has learned that some things are better observed at a distance. The city will deal with itself in its own way. Her responsibility is here. She shifts her position slowly, easing the ache in her back. The child inside her moves again, then settles. For a moment, Anne allows herself a small, careful thought. She imagines a future that is only slightly easier, not rich, not safe from worry, just a little less exhausting. She does not hold the thought for long. Hope must be quiet to survive. The candle finally burns too low to be useful. Anne ties off the thread and sets the work aside. She lies down beside her daughter, arranging herself so that she can feel the small rise and fall of Elizabeth's chest. Outside, London breathes. Gin is poured. Coins change hands. Someone laughs. someone cries. And slowly, as the night deepens, the city lowers its voice again. Anne closes her eyes. Tomorrow will come soon enough. For now, there is sleep. And in London, that is sometimes enough. The night in London never fully disappears. It thins. Sounds soften first. Then movement slows. Eventually, even the darkness seems to loosen its grip. In the small room near Fleet Street, Anne sleeps lightly. Her body is tired in a way that does not fully release, even in rest. One hand rests on her stomach. The other lies close to her daughter, instinctively aware of every small movement. Elizabeth stirs, not fully awake, just enough to shift, to sigh, to remind the world that she is still here. Anne opens her eyes. She does not sit up right away. She waits, listening, feeling. The room is cold. The candle has burned out, leaving a faint smell of smoke and wax. Pale grey light presses against the window. Not yet sunrise, but close. This is the quietest moment of the day. Before work begins again. Before hunger becomes noticeable. Before decisions have to be made. Anne pulls the blanket tighter around Elizabeth. Soon she will wake her. Soon she will begin again. But not yet. Outside, London is changing its rhythm. A cart rolls past in the distance, wheels creaking slowly. Somewhere a door opens. Somewhere else someone coughs, a deep, tired sound that carries in the still air. Anne sits up carefully. She moves slowly now. Everything she does is measured. Sudden movements cost energy she cannot spare. She wraps a shawl around her shoulders and stands. Her back aches immediately. It always does. She breathes through it, the way she has learned to breathe through many things. She pours a small amount of water into a cup. The water is cold and slightly cloudy. She drinks anyway. Clean water is never guaranteed. Elizabeth wakes fully now, not crying, just watching. Anne smiles, small and tired, and lifts her. The child is warm, heavier than she was months ago, solid in a comforting way. Anne presses her face briefly into Elizabeth's hair. This, she thinks, is why she keeps going. Not happiness exactly, but attachment, responsibility, love, stretched thin but still present. Outside, the first vendors begin to appear. Men and women carry baskets. Wooden stalls are unfolded. Cloth is spread on the ground. The market grows slowly, like something waking up reluctantly. Anne knows the sounds well. She has heard them nearly every morning of her adult life. She sets Elizabeth down with a piece of bread hard enough to occupy her attention. The child gnaws at it seriously, absorbed in the task. Anne returns to her sewing. The needle moves again. In, out, in again. Each stitch is a small act of defiance against hunger. Elsewhere in the city, other women are doing the same. Some stitch, some scrub. Some sell themselves for coins they will later spend on food or rent or gin. Some drink before the day begins because facing it sober feels impossible. London allows all of this. It does not reward it. It does not stop it. It simply absorbs it. As the light grows stronger, the city fully wakes. Children cry, horses snort, shopkeepers shout prices. The smell of bread mixes with smoke and refuse. Anne finishes another piece and sets it aside. She counts again. Not much, but enough for now. She lifts Elizabeth back onto her hip and looks toward the window. Another day has begun. Not a better one, not a worse one, just another. And in London, that is how survival works. You do not need the day to be good. You only need it to end with you still standing. Anne adjusts her grip on the child. The city moves around her, indifferent and enormous, and she moves with it, quietly, persistently, one stitch at a time. Morning reaches London unevenly. Some streets catch the light early, others remain in shadow long after the sun has risen, as if the night is reluctant to leave. Above a leather workshop near Fleet Street, Thomas wakes slowly. Not to an alarm, not to urgency, but to discomfort. The straw mattress presses against his back. The thin blanket has slipped during the night, leaving his feet cold. The room smells faintly of damp wood, leather, and old smoke. For a moment, he lies still. This is a habit he has learned. Moving too quickly reminds the body how tired it is. Below him, the workshop creaks as someone opens the door. The sound travels upward through the building, familiar and unthreatening. Thomas sits up. His muscles protest mildly. Nothing serious. Just the accumulated weight of many days like this one. He pulls on his clothes. Linen shirt, worn trousers, wool coat stiff with use. He does not look in a mirror. There is no need. He already knows what he will see. Down the street, Anna is awake as well. She has been awake longer. Elizabeth sits on the floor near the window, occupied with a piece of bread that is more effort than nourishment. She gnaws at it patiently, absorbed in the task. Anna sews. The candle is gone now, replaced by grey morning light. It is not bright, but it is enough. Her stitches are slower today. Her back aches more than yesterday. The child inside her shifts, then settles again. She pauses, rests a hand on her stomach, then continues. There is no decision involved. Stopping is not an option. Thomas steps outside. The street is already active. Vendors set down baskets. Shopkeepers lift shutters. A man leads a horse past him, the animal's hooves dull against the stones. The air smells of bread, smoke, and damp earth. He walks toward the market without hurry. Time moves differently in the morning. Everything feels suspended between rest and labor. At a corner, a woman spreads cloth on the ground and arranges vegetables carefully, as if order might improve their value. Another woman stands nearby with a basket on her arm, waiting. Thomas passes them without stopping. He will return later, perhaps, if he has coins to spend. Anna listens to the same sounds from her window, the market waking, the low murmur of voices, the scrape of wood on stone. These sounds are comforting in their predictability. She finishes another glove finger and adds it to the pile. Elizabeth grows restless. Anna lifts her onto her hip, adjusting her weight carefully. The child leans into her, heavy and warm. This closeness steadies her. In the workshop, Thomas begins his work. Leather laid out, knife in hand. The rhythm returns quickly. Cut, measure, cut again. The work is physical, but simple. It leaves room for thought. He thinks, briefly, of his sister. Not of her face, he barely remembers it now, but of the idea of her. Somewhere else in the city, working, enduring. He does not know Anne. They will never meet, and yet their days are shaped by the same forces. Coin, time, fatigue, hope, carefully rationed. Anne shifts her position again, easing the strain in her legs. She thinks, briefly, of her brother, somewhere across the city, working, cutting leather, saving pennies. She does not know Thomas, but she knows the kind of life he lives. London connects people this way, not through conversation, not through friendship, but through shared constraint. The morning advances, the market grows louder, the workshop fills with sound, the city fully wakes. Anne sets her work aside to prepare a small meal. Thomas pauses to stretch his hands. both will continue through the afternoon, into the evening, and again tomorrow. Their lives do not intersect, but they move in parallel, two threads in the same fabric. Quiet, unremarkable, essential. And as London carries on around them, vast and indifferent, those threads hold, stitch by stitch, cut by cut, day by day. London has always been held together by women you do not hear about, not queens, not ladies in portraits, just ordinary women moving quietly through narrow rooms and crowded streets. In the early morning, before the city is fully awake, they rise. Some rise from straw mattresses beside sleeping children. Some rise from beds shared with exhaustion and habit. Some rise alone. The rooms are cold. The floors are hard. The walls hold the night's dampness. Women wrap shawls around their shoulders and begin. Water is fetched. Bread is broken. Fires are coaxed into life. Hands move automatically. These hands know their work. They scrub linen in cold water until fingers numb. They stitch leather and cloth until eyes blur. They knead dough that will feed families who rarely say thank you. The work is not beautiful, but it is precise. In small rooms lit by grey light, needles pass through fabric again and again. In, out, in again. Each stitch holds something together: a glove, a shirt, a household. Children wake. Some cry. Some watch quietly. Some are already old enough to help. Women lift them onto hips, balance weight and work, and continue. This is a skill learned early. One arm for labor, one arm for care. The city does not pause for tenderness. It allows it only in fragments. As the morning advances, the streets fill. Women carry baskets. They stand by wooden stalls. They spread cloth on the ground and arrange what little they have to sell. Vegetables, bread, scraps of cloth, small necessary things. Coins are exchanged, not many, just enough. Some women drink gin, not to celebrate, but to soften the edges, to quiet hunger, to dull pain, to make the day feel shorter. The city judges them for this. It does not judge the work that breaks their bodies. By midday, fatigue settles in. It is not sudden, it is familiar. Women sit when they can, stand when they must, lean against walls, carts, doorways. Their conversations are practical. Who is ill? Who has died? Where work can be found? Stories are not told for entertainment. They are exchanged for survival. Afternoon light slants through narrow streets. Inside, women return to work. More washing, more sewing, more tending. Children sleep when they can. Women do not. Evening arrives quietly. Meals are small. Fires burn low. Women count what remains. Bread, coal, thread. Numbers matter. Outside, taverns fill. Men drink loudly. Women drink quietly. Some women wait. Some work. Some walk home alone. Night deepens. The city exhales. In rooms across London, women lie down. Some beside children, some beside men, some beside worry. Sleep comes unevenly. Dreams are brief. But rest, even light rest, is enough to begin again. Tomorrow will be much the same. And that is how London survives. Not through greatness, not through power, but through ordinary women doing ordinary work in extraordinary conditions. Their names are mostly forgotten, but their labour remains, holding the city together, quietly, stitch by stitch. Nothing remarkable happens today, and in London, that is enough. The day begins slowly, without announcement. Light seeps into narrow streets where the sun rarely reaches directly. The air is cool, heavy with moisture from the night. People wake, not all at once, not eagerly. They rise because the day has arrived, and because staying in bed changes nothing. Doors open, shutters lift, footsteps begin to echo softly on stone. A woman carries a basket. A man leads a horse. Someone sweeps the front of a shop, moving yesterday's dirt into the street, where it joins the rest. There is no rush. The city stretches. Bread is baked somewhere. The smell drifts briefly, then fades. Fires are lit. Water is fetched. Voices are low. Morning is not for conversation. It is for preparation. In small rooms, work begins. Needles move through cloth. Knives cut leather. Hands repeat motions learned years ago. In, out, again. Children sit nearby. Some watch, some sleep. Some wander until called back. No one is angry. No one is especially happy. This is simply how the day starts. As the morning advances, The streets fill gently. Markets appear as if they have always been there. Wooden stalls unfold. Cloth is spread on the ground. Goods are arranged carefully, even when there is little to arrange. Coins change hands. Not many. Enough. A woman adjusts her shawl. A man pauses to stretch his back. Someone laughs briefly, then stops. The city moves around them, wide and indifferent. By midday, the light changes. It slants between buildings, touching only parts of the street. Some doorways are bright, others remain dark. People eat when they can. Bread, cheese, sometimes nothing. Work does not stop for meals, it merely slows. A cart passes. A dog sleeps near a wall. Someone hums without realizing it. Nothing important happens, and yet everything continues. In the afternoon, fatigue settles in. It does not arrive suddenly. It is already there. People lean, sit, continue anyway. A woman wipes her hands on her skirt and returns to her task. A man sharpens a tool and uses it again. Time passes. The city does not mark it. As evening approaches, the pace softens. Shadows grow longer. Voices lower again. Work is set aside, not finished, just paused. Small meals are prepared. Fires burn low. People count what remains, not today's profits, tomorrow's needs. Outside, lanterns are lit, one by one. The street looks gentler in this light. Not safer, just quieter. Some people gather in taverns, others walk home. Others sit where they are, resting in place. The night deepens, the city exhales. Doors close, footsteps fade. Sounds become distant. In rooms across London, people lie down. Some beside family, some beside strangers, some beside their thoughts. Sleep comes unevenly, but it comes. And when it does, it carries the body just far enough away to begin again. Tomorrow will be much like today. And that is how London endures. Not through events, not through moments worth remembering, but through days like this, quiet, ordinary, unbroken. London is built on the labor of ordinary men. Not generals, not politicians, not men whose names are written down. Just men who wake up tired and work anyway. Before the sun fully rises, they are already moving. Some pull on boots stiff with yesterday's mud. Some wrap coats tighter against the cold. Some pause for a moment, sitting on the edge of a bed, gathering the strength to stand. Rooms are small, beds are hard, air is cold and damp. Men wash their faces with cold water, not to feel clean, but to feel awake. They eat bread if there is bread. They drink small beer if there is beer. Then they step outside. The streets receive them without comment. Men walk toward docks, workshops, markets, yards, toward places where bodies are needed more than words. Hands lift, carry, pull, push. Leather is cut, wood is shaped, stone is moved. The work is repetitive. It is meant to be. Repetition keeps the mind quiet. Men speak little while working, not from hostility, but from conservation. Words cost energy. By mid-morning, muscles warm. Pain dulls into something familiar. Sweat mixes with smoke and dust. Clothing grows heavier. A man pauses to wipe his brow. Another sharpens a blade. Another stretches his back and returns to the same motion again. No one expects recognition. The work itself is the proof. At midday, men eat where they stand. Bread, cheese, sometimes nothing. They sit on crates, steps, curbs. They do not linger. Rest is brief. The city does not stop moving for them. In the afternoon, fatigue deepens. Arms feel heavier, hands less precise. Men adapt. They slow slightly. They lean more. They continue. Conversation turns practical. Who is hiring? Who is injured? Who has disappeared? Illness is discussed quietly. Death more quietly still. By evening, shadows stretch long across the streets. Tools are set down. Work is not finished, only paused. Men walk home in groups or alone. Some stop at taverns, some do not. For some, gin waits, not celebration, escape. For others, home waits, a room, a meal, a moment of quiet. At night, bodies finally rest. Men lie down with muscles still humming from effort. Sleep comes quickly or not at all. Dreams are simple or absent. Tomorrow will be the same, and that is enough. Because survival here is not about progress. It is about endurance. And ordinary men endure.